You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
I don't think an introduction can ever get any better than what just happened on this stage. I feel like you all know way too much about me now with that. But you have to give a shout out to Sav for how much she's been holding down the stage the whole weekend. So let's give another round of applause to her for rocking it. And naturally, an easy transition, speaking of her, I'm going to tell you about the Her app. Her is the largest community for LGBTQ+ women and queer people to meet, date, go to events. It's basically an excuse to just come together and be gay as fuck. So in May of 2018, we went from this, an app that was specifically for lesbian, bisexual women. We were inclusive, but not outwardly so, coming out the closet references. We also were pretty tongue-in-cheek in our branding. We stuck to the status quo, we kept it safe. We knew what was popular. Cisgender, which means born as a woman, identifies as a woman. White women with snapbacks, if you can tell here. So we stuck to it, we leaned into it, but we realized that we weren't representing our community as we should have. So let's fast forward to our rebrand, where we look like this. I'm glad you like it, thanks. So we knew that we had to represent our community. We had a diverse, empowering, unapologetically queer group of people that we needed to represent. A lot had to go into our rebranding because we were also representing a marginalized and intersectional group of people. And the space that showed outwardly in our branding also needed to be represented inside of our app. So let me ask you all a question. Let's say tomorrow, we'll give you 24 hours. How many of you would feel real confident going to a rebrand or a relaunch or starting a new community? How many of you would feel 100% confident? You gotta go. This is not for you. These are for the people who possibly, if we did this tomorrow, how many of you would feel like -5% ready? Yes, all of you who didn't raise your hands, I hope you're just here for a good time then. And as well through this talk, I'm taking you through what I did in my process. Not sure if it's going to work, but I knew when I was looking back that there was not any kind of format to be able to rebrand and launch. And a lot of this can also go into if you're starting a new community. So I hope that you can take in what I've done and that it helps you in some way and alleviates just a bit of stress. So first thing that you're going to do is you're going to rebuild. When you rebuild, you have to backtrack. You have to look back at what you know about your company. You know the obvious. Here's my company, here's the product, here's my mission, here's what we're after. Cool, check, that's done. Easy part's done. Now you want to know what you know about your people. For some of you, it's going to stare at you in the face. You'll have a spot that's a place for people to come and connect because they like sports. If you're coming here, you're probably a sports lover. Awesome, easy, you're done. For other people, say you were in like a parents community. You can assume that they might be new parents, that they might have older kids, that they might be trying to be parents, but most likely you know that majority of your community has kids. Great. When I look back at her, I was like, cool, I have a huge community of LGBTQ+ women, trans, non-binary people. All of them had different interests. Starting off real great. This is a good start. So when I looked at that big bubble of what I knew about the people in our community, I was like, I need to narrow this down. So I picked the top 4 to 5 things that I knew about my community. And it's great for you to start there as well. So what did I know? I knew what content performed the best. I knew how our team was going to react to it. I knew where to find it. I knew what was trending. It was great. Next, I knew the top requests that were made in the community. Now, how many of you know that if your community is not happy with you, they're gonna find you? They will find you, they will let you know how you feel. So I went back to all of those spaces that they usually let me know when they were or were not happy with the community. I went to community posts, I went to social media, I went to customer support, I went to reviews, I found it all. Take those in because that is going to be a part of that foundation that you create when you're starting to think about your rebrand. I also knew where a majority of the popular LGBTQ+ media sites were. I wanted to have those resources. We're not a content-based community. I do post content, I do write a lot of content, but at the end of the day, I don't have time every day to write 25 articles to be posted. So if you're in the same boat as I was, You're gonna go through and you're gonna have that list placed somewhere so that you can easily go and keep track of the trends and what's happening. Lastly, I knew the stories of the couples who had met in the app. Yours might not be couples, they might just be people who successfully used your product, but know those success stories because you will be able to easily go back and ask them how they did it, what made it successful for them, and why they continue to come back to your community. Now take all of that knowledge that you have, relax, because you now know more than you thought you did, and that's a pretty damn good feeling. Most of your resources are right in front of you. So I mentioned a bunch like social media, community posts, customer support, you can dive into product threads, all of that. That's where you need to be when you're first starting to go through a rebrand. You're doing research. People are who you want to talk to. If you have a community already because you're doing a rebrand, it's a great feeling because you already have the space. For those who are going to launch, don't worry, you will get there, I promise. You'll have people. But people in general are walking, talking receipts. And I'm gonna say receipts a lot. A lot. So receipts. Receipts are the paper trail of knowledge to show your team that you gain from when you talk to people. All that paper trail. So when you're looking at what you're talking to with people, you're finding out the information that needs to build out your foundation. And you're going to add all of that in to your backtracking. So you're gonna ask them what they liked, what they disliked. You're gonna find out what they were interested in, what they feel like needs to be better, but you have to talk to them and you have to keep those receipts. It's a great connection piece also when you are starting to put together trends from what they've said, because you now have the receipts that have the numbers of times people requested it, when they mentioned it, if different countries are saying different things, all of that. So keep those there. After you go through these trends, your plan can start to form, but you still need to talk to more people. So what questions are you gonna ask them? Overall, you don't wanna start off asking questions. How would you feel if somebody came up to you and was just like, I need you to tell me about my community in all these ways? You see this face? That face didn't wanna do that. So you wanna go in and you wanna have a conversation. You wanna talk to your community. You wanna let them know what you're doing. It's not a secret. You can go in and say, hey, we are going to rebrand or we're gonna launch and I feel like your opinion would be really valuable. Less is more in terms of your response. You are here to ask questions, not to sit and fight for your community and talk about, but we're gonna fix this and do that. No, we don't need you to do that. Less is more. Ask the question, sit back and listen. Take notes, get your receipts. You can ask them questions around trust in the community that you have, how they feel about it, questions about the quality of content that's posted, what frustrates them, what excites them. You want to be able to get all of this information because you want to stick to your mission. You can go in there and generally have a conversation, but if I sit and get off track and talk about Beyonce, that's not gonna help my community. Not gonna work. We can bond over that later. But you wanna have things that can be turned into actionable steps to be added to your information. After you've done all of these questions, it's very important to follow up and take your customer through this journey. People don't like change. How many of you like change? I love you people. Y'all are great. You can come back now, because you were leaving earlier. You can come back. So you want to give people a heads up. It doesn't have to be a blatant blinking screen that says, oh my God, change is coming. We're about to flip with everything that you just had. It doesn't, no, it's too much. You can go through and let people know through the content that you're gonna be posting, through surveys, through group discussions, through polls. So now you're probably thinking, who do you talk to? I see some of your eyes have diverted to the screen behind here. If you haven't been able to read some of the descriptions of these people, these are actual people that we talked to during our rebrand. This is just a small grouping. We had pages of this. So you want to talk to people who are a part of your community and have a diverse background. I'm about to define diverse for you. So diverse, meaning different ethnicities, different cultures, different backgrounds, different professions, different parts of the world. Diverse is all-inclusive. You want to hear these people tell you about your product because you are going to get topics that you probably hadn't even thought of, especially if you're a team of one, like I am. So you want to hear from all of these people. You can tell that like some of them, sex and LGBTQ writer, a founder. We just had a person that we saw and we're like, hey, are you queer? Can you come and talk to us? Like, please just let us know. So you wanted to bring these people in and have those thoughts that you may not have thought about. Bring them to your plan. Let's fast forward. Say that you went through your rebrand. Woo! We're excited. You're excited. So now it's time to start thinking about your community goals and what you're after. But first, you know that your community goals and the community asks that come from them are going to be different than your business goals, 9 times out of 10. It's a wonderful circle of life. So you have the community. You want to do what's best for them because you're a great community manager and that's what you want to do. Awesome. Your boss has business goals because they have to make money and you're making a paycheck. All right, let's put this together. It's already going to be back and forth. We don't like it. It's stressful. But we have to try and get results and we have to try and feel out what we can do in those first steps. But at the end of the day, companies need communities because if they don't have people, they don't have a product. So hold on to that when you do it. But overall, you really want to go and talk to just about everybody in your company. You want to talk to your boss. You want to talk to a supervisor of another field. You want to talk to the head of a department. You want to talk to the engineers. Show them the ideas that you've already gained from when you were backtracking, when you were talking to people, and see if they have any ideas that come up as well. This is an easy way to get buy-in. A lot of times engineers and people, they don't get to hear about this side of the work, so they almost feel like way more appreciated that you took the time to just be like, hey, Bridget, how do you feel about this? And they already feel bought into what you're doing, and it's not a surprise. As well, when you're talking to people, make sure that you go back and you research the companies that have a similar platform or audience as you. See what they're doing. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Most of the information is out there when you go through and see what people have done. See what makes them money. See what is successful for them. See what failed for them, because there's probably going to be articles about it, especially if they're bigger companies. Find out all of this information. But the most important advice that I can give you is to get out there. Oh my God. Go out there and talk to people. You are the community liaison, so you have to talk to people. You don't have the luxury of kind of hiding behind a computer, especially if you end up being like the face. Like if you go on Her, you see my face everywhere. So if I go out and see people, they're going to know, and I have to talk to them. Can't avoid it. So it's also interesting that I have to say that as a person who works at a dating app, to go out and talk to people. Like that's the #1 advice I give on a daily basis to people who are like, I haven't met anybody. I'm like, have you gone out? And they're like, no. I'm like, all right, exhibit A, done, thank you. So to go back, you have your foundation, you have your research, you have your receipts, you have the things that people have said. Other great communication tools if you can't get out there to talk to people: surveys, giveaways, office visits, polls, would you rather questions on social media. All of that can be creative ways for you to get feedback from your community, and a really easy way to keep your receipts because everybody has to write down the answers, so you can go and keep that and print it. Go through, find the trends, and move forward. Because after all this, you have to tell your team about what you did. So some of them knew you were doing things because you already went and talked to them about some ideas. Even if you didn't tell them explicitly what you're doing, they knew it was coming. So many of us assume that our team members know about the community, that they know what's trending, they know what they're complaining about, they know what the issues are, right? 100%. No, they don't. And if you don't believe me, I will bet, I know Sav was betting drinks earlier, I will bet 2 drinks, that if you go back and ask your team 5 questions about the community and they get them right, I will buy you 2 drinks. Because I promise you they will not, and you will see what I'm talking about. So be sure to bring them in. Bring them in on what your findings are. What's the community complaining about? What do they want to see done? What products are there? What ideas do they possibly have? Ask them what's missing, what they want to see more of inside of the community. And I don't know about you, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a UI UX designer. I avoid all the technical aspects of things. So sometimes I need to bring these ideas to our engineers because somebody gave a really good product idea and I don't know how to execute it. I don't know how much time it will take. So that's another way to get more buy-in from your team. And then see what ideas your team has. They're gonna have great ideas. They know the product just as well as you do, so if not better. And you can put all of those together. So we're starting to make a big pile here, but trust me, it all goes into a space that you need because you've done all the work, your community is almost live, and now you have to think about how you're going to regrow it. You're gonna imagine your dream community. You're going to dream big. You're going to put it all together in a way that in a perfect world, what does my community look like? You have the receipts. You also have your gut. You kind of know what your community is going to be after. And you have a plan. Then you need to go and present this plan with so much confidence. Get like, again, Beyonce level confidence. That's how you need to present it. Because you're going to first have the dream world that you're going to present, and you're going to have a lot of your team members being like, ooh, that seems like a lot that we're going to do. So you back it up and say, well, here is some other options that I thought about. And you're going to pick the top things that you want done. It's a nice little bout of reverse psychology. I actually did use this on my team where I was like, everybody, this is what it's going to look like. And they were like, oh, no, we are a startup. This is not how this happens. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, let me go back, even though I knew I already had my backup plan, and then presented it to them to be like, hey, what about this idea? And they were like, this sounds like we can do it. Have that ready. I promise you it will work. But as well, when you provide the dream community scenario, you're giving your team an idea of what the potential of your community can be. So even if you can't get it worked on now, it might get worked on later. It might come back a year from now, things like that. But you've already set that idea in their head. These are the steps that you have to take to advocate. It's one of those things that you never know that you have to think about. You're like, what do you mean? I have to have a plan to advocate? Yes, because if you just come in and you're like, this community should be great because I'm the community manager and that's what should happen, there are steps because you've already done all of that work, so you already have your receipts. And you know that you know the community best. So take them through your process, share your ideas. Don't be discouraged if some of your ideas are put on the back burner. And don't be discouraged if some of your ideas never come to fruition, because you are the ones that are speaking up for your community. So to go through all of this, list your ideas, all the ones that are from the community that you planned and from your brainstorms. Show them the numbers from the time that you did the surveys, that you talked on the polls, that you went and looked at posts. Make your plan. Remember, dream community, realistic community, and don't be afraid to go big. You are the biggest advocate. You are the biggest knowledge bearer, and nobody can tell you otherwise. Allow them to see the potential of what your community can be, but this is a great start. So it's almost launch day. I couldn't put like pre-launch day. It didn't fit on the slide, but it's almost launch day. This is your general checklist that I went through, and it's a thing that people forget to do right before they go to launch. So the first thing that you have are your pre-coms. These are your teasers. Helps with the growing pains because people who don't like change, they want to know. So you want to send out social media posts. You want to do little things in the community to be like, oh, hey, something's happening. We're not going to tell you what's happening, or we're going to do a countdown or anything creative. Have fun with it. Then you're going to make people feel special. This goes for the people who have been an integral part of your community growth as well as your internal team. So anybody who's an advisor, an investor, somebody who's come through to help you with the community, shoot them an email, give them a phone call, let them know what's going down. If you're going to share graphics or anything on that day, share it with your internal team and allow them to post on the same day as well. Be like, this is what time we're posting and we want you to post too. It gets them involved, brings the community together inside your team. Create an FAQ, a frequently asked questions list, that you can share with your entire team on the day of launch, and then continue to update that list throughout the day because you're not going to know all the questions that people are going to ask. They probably will ask things that you didn't even think about. So update that list so that when a fire starts, you don't have to be the only one putting out all of the fires. You have your team there to answer questions. And at the end of the day, expect it to go bad. It's just, it's just a deep down thing. Like, just expect it to go bad. Don't allow it to get you down. Just be like, yeah, it's going to be a bad day, but when it's not, it's going to be great. But at the end of the time, you've done all of this. You've done your checklist. So that means that you've sent out the comms. You've given your people answers to questions. So everybody's ready. Everybody's on the same page. It's going to make your day go a lot smoother. Trust me on that. If that's anything of what I did, I would be like, yes, do this. That is what is going to help you out. So this is an example timeline that I had. It doesn't have to look like this. This is obviously very branded. But it shows kind of where I broke things down. And then the most important part is what I did after. So I reviewed everything that went down. I sent out surveys. I made sure that there was a posting that happened within the 2 weeks that our community launched. This is to see how well your launch was executed. So you go back in, you see what the trends were, you see what you can improve upon, rinse, repeat, and start right back at that foundation of going back out, talking to people, doing the things, collecting the receipts, doing all of that. Continue to put your community voice first in all of this. Don't let that be lost when your team is like, we have this bug or we have this issue. Don't let it happen. This is our end product of what our app ended up looking like. Let me get out of the way. Over here. So our community generally asked us to highlight more details about them. We had a very Pinterest-like board where it was just pictures and then you could put a box of text, but they wanted more pictures, they wanted it to be easy to use, and they obviously wanted it to be more queer. So when you have the option to choose your religion and the Church of Haley Kiyoko pops up, I don't know how much more queer you can get. And so with that and everything that I went through and did, at the end of the day, we had some negative feedback because you're always going to have haters. It's guaranteed. If you miss the trolls talk, it's a fact. They're going to be there. But at the end of the day, we had a more positive result and a lot more positive feedback because of what we did ahead of time. So with that, I'm going to leave you with an amazing quote from an amazing woman, Maya Angelou, obviously in the stance of Beyonce's Homecoming. Remember that you are a representative of your race, the human race, and you are the best representative for your community. Continue to evolve as your community grows and continue to slay. Thank you.
Get on your feet, ladies and gentlemen. That was bloody excellent. You're not going anywhere, sweetheart.